grandpa killed herself, my grandpa always kept around a couple of side chicks. He never allowed another woman to use like an official title with him though. So he didn't have girlfriends, fiancés, wives, partners, nothing like that. But he never stopped entertaining women. He actually had these two side chicks who were his favorites for years, and they each had their own house that my grandfather paid for. He paid the rent on both of that. Actually, he paid all of their bills because neither of them had jobs. They were both completely unemployed, but living very cushy lives on my grandfather's dime. But then my grandfather gets killed. And so all of that's about to be ripped away from them because they have no way to pay their bills anymore. And so one of them goes to my mom and tries to demand that my mom pays her bills now because my mom inherited my grandpa's money. And my mom's like, no, go get a fucking job. And then the other one goes to my mom and she's very upset about my grandfather's death and losing my grandfather. And she said that her entire life has exploded and she has no idea what to do anymore. And my mom takes pity on that one and gives that one money and then signs over one of my grandpa's houseboats to her. And then the other one hears what my mom did for that lady after telling her to go get a job, and she is fucking livid. And she goes and she takes a hit out on my mother, literally puts a price out for my mom's head. And this hit is taken so seriously that we had to go into hiding. I spent years of my childhood in hiding because this woman put a hit out on my mother. Eventually we're found, not by her or her goons, no, by one of my grandfather's friends who had spent years trying to hunt down my mother so that he could tell her that he had dealt with that hit pretty quickly after it was placed. And he told my mom all the details about the hit. And it's been about 20 years since we've been out now, and my mom is still fucking pissed about this. Not about the fact that she had that hit placed on her in the first place, but about the fact that it turned out it was only worth $2,000. My mom was playing favorites with my grandpa's side chicks after he was murdered. This isn't a secret. I told y'all, he had the same side chicks for years. They were not a secret by any means. My grandfather was funding their entire lives, and this was actually pretty normalized within the community that my family was a part of at that point in time. It was not uncommon whatsoever for this type of thing to be happening. So my entire family knew them. All of my grandpa's friends knew them. The entire community knew who those women were to my grandfather. They even knew about each other. They just did not like each other. My mom knew them both very well. One of them she liked and one of them she hated. The one that she liked, her name was Jerry, and that woman was down so bad for my grandfather that in 1990 she wrote an entire song about him. She took that song, Greatest Love of All by Whitney Houston, and she changed the lyrics to entirely be about my grandfather. She literally changed them to stuff like, Ron Roloff, you are the best, you are better than all the rest. Every single line became some corny ass line about how great my grandfather was. She then went to a recording studio and recorded herself singing that song about how amazing my grandfather was, and then gave him a copy of it on a cassette tape for his birthday that year. And now I have copies of my grandpa's favorite side chick singing a song about him still to this day, over 30 years later. And that's why after my grandpa was murdered, my mom gave that woman a houseboat, but the other side chick didn't get shit. Mom blames herself for my dad's death because she's convinced that she's cursed because everybody she loves dies young in a tragic way, which is true. Not the part about her being cursed, but the part about everybody she loves dying young in a tragic way. Her dad was murdered, her mom killed herself, her aunt killed herself, her grandma killed herself, her great-grandma killed herself, and then my biological dad killed himself. And now my stepdad, who I call dad, he was hit and killed by a negligent truck driver in June. So she thinks that she's responsible for that because she thinks that if she would have never married him, he would still be alive. But since she did marry him, he had to suffer the fate of her curse, and that is why he was hit and killed by this truck driver. So I just want to clarify a few things for anybody else who might be thinking anything like that. Anything about my mom somehow being responsible for my dad's fate because of her being cursed after watching some of my videos about my family history and my family stories on here. There are exactly two people that I find to be responsible for my father's death. The first one is the man who sped through a flashing yellow turn, made no attempts to yield or to stop before smashing into my dad while he was on a motorcycle. And the second person that I find to be partly responsible for his death is not my mother, but it is his grandmother who called him and demanded that he go out to the ranch to do something for her, told him he needed to be out there immediately because she had plans and she wanted to get it done immediately. So he got up and he left and he went out there, and that is why he was at that intersection. Otherwise, he would have never been at that intersection at that time. If she had not called him and demanded that he go out there, he would still be alive to this day. So call me a terrible person all you want, but I am going to continue also blaming his 96-year-old grandmother for his death. I was the worst teenager. I caused my mom so much unnecessary stress and made her life so much harder than it had to be because I did everything for the plot back then. I was convinced that I was not going to live past 18, so I just did anything and everything that I wanted to do, regardless of if it put my life in danger. Like if there was a bonfire in a cornfield in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night, you bet your ass teenage me was going to be there. It did not matter what I had to do to get there. I was going to get there, even if it meant sneaking out of the house and hitchhiking with a random at 2 a.m. to get there. I was going to do it. Actually, my sneaking out got so bad that my mom started putting motion sensors stickers all over our house. She put them on our front porch. She attached them to every single tree in our front yard. She put them in the driveway and she put them in the garage so that she could try to prevent me from sneaking out. It did not work though, because then I would open my bedroom window and directly below my bedroom was a hot tub with a hard top. I would jump out the window onto that hot tub. I would then use the hot tub to climb up 2 windows so that I could attach myself to our back patio on the top floor. And then I would scale the back patio around our house until I got to the side of the house where we had a fence that connected with our neighbor's yard. And I would then use the patio to jump over that fence and land in our neighbor's yard, which I had to somersault when I landed in order to not get injured. And then I would go through their side gate and leave through their front yard so that I could escape our house without triggering my mom's motion sensors. And whenever I would inevitably get caught and I would be at home getting lectured by my mom, she would always tell me that one day karma was going to come for me. I was going to get my karma in the form of a teenager who was just as bad as I was, who caused me just as much stress as I caused her. And today I watched my 16-year-old leave late for his first day of junior year. And as he was driving away, all I could think about is how my mama was wrong because he did not have a baby in his backseat. The first time I ever went viral on here, it was when there was a trend to post your MySpace emo throwback photos to that Dear Maria song by All Time Low. I had done the trend, it went viral, and this girl named Serena commented on my video talking about how excited she was to find me on here because she had followed me back on MySpace before I completely disappeared off of the internet. And so I commented back to her and we started chatting through comments, and then I followed her back and we started chatting even more and we became friends. And I eventually discovered that she played Fortnite too. So I added her on Fortnite and we started playing together. And like a year after that happened, almost the exact same thing happened with this other girl named Caroline. She had commented on one of my videos. I commented back. We started chatting. I followed her back. We started talking more. And eventually I convinced her to play Fortnite with me. And one day I was on playing Fortnite with Caroline and I saw Serena log in. And I was like, hey, do you care if I add my friend Serena to our group so we can play as trios? I'll introduce you guys over mic. And she was like, yeah, no, I don't care. And so Serena joined and I introduced them. And then I had made a comment about how they both lived in the East Coast because I knew that Serena lived in Georgia and I had seen Caroline tagging herself at places in Louisiana at one point in time. And so I assumed that Caroline lived in Louisiana. And then Serena asked Caroline where she lived and Caroline's like, oh, I live in Georgia. And Serena's like, whoa, I live in Georgia too. Where do you live? And it turns out they live in the exact same city. So now my two internet friends get to hang out together in real life all the time while I live across the fucking country.